All right, hello. Welcome to episode 62 of Your Ultimate Comeback. I'm here with Raquel and a special guest, and I'm going to have her introduce in a few minutes.
Okay.
Raquel, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Yeah?
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
Good.
Love to be here. You know it. You know it. True story.
True story.
Yeah.
This is your happy place, isn't it?
I do love this. I like to talk. Truth be told.
I knew that before the podcast.
Yes, that's true. That's true. We did. So did my elementary school teachers.
You were destined for this.
It's true. It's true. See, all of that poor citizenship, I can't even speak, that all was not for nothing. It is now culminated.
You were preparing.
That's correct. In my podcast success.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Well, I'll let you go ahead and introduce our guest.
Okay. We have a very special guest again today, my friend Chris Snyder Monahan. And Chris and I have known each other just 30 years, something like that, which once again is hard to believe because we're both so young.
I know. How can that happen when we're 28 years
I know.
old?
Exactly. It's crazy. It's crazy. Wait, the math is not
The math
mathing.
isn't working.
No. But we met at Newport Workout. We were both, I was just starting to train there. I was about to go through a divorce. And you had just come off of a very, very tragic situation, which we'll let you talk about. I'm trying to remember how we became friends. I think it was a small place. Newport Workout, where it initially was, and I think Paula talked about that too, right? Under John Dominus, was very small. So I feel like everybody knew everybody. All the trainers and the clients kind of knew each other.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a very cohesive, family-like situation. Yeah. And one thing that I will always credit Chris for is helping me find my therapist, because we share the same therapist. She was kind enough to give me that recommendation. And all these years later, still see the guy.
Yep.
And he's amazing. So that's great. And one other little thing that we have in common is my husband, she actually knew from many years back because she used to work for my father-in-law. So just all these weird little things. But anyway, Chris and I feel like hit it off right away. She has a very funny sense of humor, and I always love that. We're kind of both snarky a little bit.
Yes.
And no, we like snarkiness.
I like that word.
Yeah.
And dry.
Yes, for sure. So, another fun fact. I set her up with her second husband.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Do you hold that
thank you
against
for
me?
that,
I don't
or-
know. I was going to say, I don't know if you hold that against me at this point, but anyway. But
Life's experience.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So anyway, so let's start with when we met. What was going on in your life at that point?
Okay. So we met in 1994.
And it was?
'Cause
Okay. Yes,
I had
you're
just
right.
lost Rich,
Yes,
my husband,
yes.
in a plane crash.
Yes.
And it was about 6 months into the process, and I was introduced to Mona, who owned the gym, and I started training there with her, and I was in a terrible, terrible state. I was basically in an emotional coma, and Mona, it was just helping me to kind of get out and move, and so that's how we met initially,
Yeah.
and we really hit it off, and the Newport Workout and all the people there were very integral in my healing. It was a very healing place for me.
Yes.
Lots of laughs and lots of humor, but it was a terrible time. It was
Right.
unimaginable.
Right. And that is not the first sort of horrible thing that you've dealt with in your life.
No.
If we can go back a little bit.
Oh yeah. I think we should maybe go all the way back.
Yeah, no, let's do it.
So, when I was born, my father was a Catholic priest who got my mother pregnant.
Oopsie.
Yeah, while he was a priest. Initially, I was given up for adoption because that was a big, no-no, especially in 1966. Then, my mother came back and got me and decided she wanted to raise her baby. They weren't married, but they told everybody, they ended up getting married a couple of years into it, but told everybody they'd been married a lot longer so that people wouldn't do the math,
right.
So they kind of fudged the numbers. It was pretty much an abusive home. It was a very dysfunctional, abusive home. And at that point, but a very Catholic home. And at that point, we just, there was just certain things that we didn't talk about in our home. Later on, when I was a teen, I was always a very, good Catholic girl, very into school, straight A's, cheerleading, things like that. When I was 14, my dad's very close friend and our family friend at the time, I went to school with his kids, molested me. And I was working for him at a summer job, and he took advantage, of that position and molested me, and I became pregnant. And at 14. Yeah. And so that was just life-altering for me, life-changing, life-altering. Being Catholic, I didn't have an abortion. I don't think I would have, even if I was told that I could, because I was so Catholic. Yeah. And I had just done a report at the end of my 8th grade year, and this is now the beginning of 9th grade, on the emotional after effects of abortion.
Oh, wow.
And I had just completed that report, so I don't know that I would have had an abortion. But I ended up having, my parents handled that pregnancy in the worst way you could imagine. They invited this man over to our house for dinner every night. My mother was fixing holes in his socks and doing his laundry. He was married, was playing on their sympathy as if, his wife had kicked him out. It was so bad and very confusing for me. When this happened, I had lots of friends, and I was a very well-adjusted, Catholic schoolgirl at Notre Dame High School in Riverside, and now I have no friends because, they're letting this man over in the house. People know in the community, and nobody wants their kid hanging around, a man that has, taken advantage of a young girl. Yeah. So, but eventually, as bizarre as this is going to sound, I ended up moving out with him.
So your parents, your mom and who you thought was your dad, we're kind of treating this as
like a boyfriend.
Wow.
And he was 42 years old and I was 14.
Oh my God.
And this is
really, really bad. And I've now, being in therapy for now 30 years, I have come to understand how bad this really was, and how damaging it was to me and to my psyche. Right. It was
the way they handled it.
The way they handled it,
or didn't handle it.
Had this been handled in a way that most people would handle it, and put this guy in jail straight away, right. I think that I would have had so much less damage and so much less pain. Yeah. It would have been less confusing and less.
You would have felt supported.
Yes, I didn't have any support.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know how much you all are aware of, like, I believe it's called the Stockholm Syndrome, where you start to empathize with your
captor.
So take away all my friends, my support system.
Sure.
I'm thrown into this bizarre reality, and he becomes all that I have. Yeah. And that's the scenario that, basically my parents sort of set up. And it was very painful, but I didn't understand how painful until,
years later. Yeah.
Even just this last year, I started having more awakening, like, wow, and so that was, terrible. I was told that I was going to marry him at 16. He gave me a gold wedding band. I finished my 9th grade year. This is me, at Notre Dame High School. I was so proud that I was accepted into the school. I got straight A's, and now I'm finishing my 9th grade year at a school for pregnant minors. And it was really humiliating because, bless these girls' hearts, but they had been through, several pregnancies, several abortions. Yeah. I was the youngest one in the school. So that was really humiliating. And I have my daughter in June of 1981. And the day I come home from the hospital, and by the way, Child Protective Services had come to my room in the hospital twice and asked if I wanted to give the baby up for adoption. At this point, I'm like, oh no, I'm getting married.
Right.
I'm getting married, and I'm proud. I'm like, I had just had a baby girl. I mean, I'm thinking that this is
one big happy family here.
Yeah, and that's what your mind does, by the way, when you're a teenager. You're young, you try to normalize something so abnormally terrible. And so I was telling them, and that's the thing I look back on and think, nobody was there. No one was there to, like, somebody from Child Protective Services should have stepped in.
Yeah.
And for you.
Say it again?
For you.
Yes, for me. And they didn't. And so I come home from the hospital, and now my whole world changes because my parents decided, my mother was in labor room with me when I was having the baby, and she decided that this was all terrible and this is not going to go on, and how awful that she witnessed her daughter having a baby.
Her child.
So, yes.
Having a baby.
And suddenly the lights went on for her about how really messed up this whole thing was.
Right.
And so they decided that he's not welcome in the home anymore, that I'm not to try to contact him, that it's basically over, that this should have never been to begin with. And that's all fine and well, and that should have been from the beginning. But now I'm in terrible postpartum depression on top of the situational depression. So I am a complete mess. Mm-hmm. I am destroyed. So
he's going along with that as well?
Oh, yeah.
Your mom is just... Linda's just saying this is how it's going to be.
This is how it's going to be, and so was my father.
Okay.
And they said, if you try to contact him, we're going to send you away to a home for wayward girls.
Oh,
wow. They really put the kibosh down. Which, of course, looking back, I mean, I'm so grateful that I didn't get married to the guy. Absolutely, but as I've said, it should have never happened like that to begin with because it was so wrong. And
what do you think changed? Was it just her being in the labor, watching you and that really hitting home, do you think, is what made her kind of open her eyes?
That's what she says, that she had read a pamphlet prior to me giving birth about death of young girls in childbirth, and she was scared of that. And then when she witnessed, the labor, which I mean, I don't think my labor was any harder than the average labor. I really don't remember it, to be honest with you. But I don't remember that it wasn't like 48 hours or anything like that. But she just decided that it was more than anyone should have to be going through, and that this man needed to go. Which yes, thank you. But then I started. So I had been in Catholic school my whole life and been private school, and that summer that I had my daughter of 1981 was horrific for me, and I was really depressed, suicidal. So down. I was so depressed I couldn't make any milk to breastfeed the baby. I lost so much weight because I was, just really down. And a friend invited me to go to church. And I ended up accepting Jesus as my Savior that summer.
Love it.
And it was so radical because I had been a Catholic my whole life, but I had never understood the difference of having a relationship with Jesus. And I remember when Greg Laurie, who was the pastor, when he offered, did the altar call to come down. And I can remember that I only had really this one outfit to wear because I didn't have a lot of clothes that fit me because I had lost so much weight. And I remember there was a stain on the back of my pants, but I was like, I don't care. I'm running down there because he offered. And it was so, it was really the most amazing, just the most amazing healing feeling ever. And I didn't even understand how God would have his hand on my whole life from that, even before then, and looking back now at age 58, I'm like, the Lord has had his hand on my life in so many ways of which we'll talk about. Yeah. But, so I become a Christian. I'm still in a lot of pain. Summer's really bad. My parents decide they're going to press charges that summer out of the blue. So now I'm expected to turn on this man and, say everything that I know, which was very hard for me at my age. And so I start school in September, and now this man that, was the got me pregnant, was sending his a daughter from a previous marriage to the school to make life really miserable for me. Geez. So now I'm at a public school for the first time in my life. I'm with, kids have gone to public school and they transfer from grade school to they go all the way up together. They graduate up, and now I'm the new kid, and now I have a baby, and people would come up to me like, "What's it like to do it with an old man?" And I was just such an outcast at school, and it was so. It was just really a change for me because I was used to not being in that role, and so that was hard. I met a really dear friend who I'm still friends with today, and she was also a believer, and so we shared a bond together that really got me through high school. Eventually there was a trial. He plea bargained out of a ton of things, and he went to jail for like a year.
Oh,
I think if it was today, it would be a lot different.
Yeah.
Anyhow, fast forward, God is continually working in my life, and there's more and more healing, and I'm understanding more about, what it means to walk with God, and so God is coming alive to me. He's not just some religion, and now I've graduated from high school, and I enter adult life. I was offered scholarships, but I didn't take them. I had a baby, and so. I really didn't go to a four-year school. I went to some kind of like different programs, or I can't even remember. It was such a blur for me. I was really in so much trauma. There was just so much trauma that I don't fully remember. I couldn't even tell you, like most people have, I did this and then I did that and then I did this, but it's much a blur. But I will tell you that when I was 24, I was working for Perry Morris, your father-in-law's company. Mm-hmm. And I really loved that company. It was such a great place and so much growth and just the greatest people. And my boss, through that company, set me up with my husband, Rich Snyder. Mm-hmm. And it was so, at first I didn't like Rich. He said, "I've got the guy for you. You have," and he had set me up before in the past.
And you're how old at this time?
Now I'm 24.
Okay.
And he's like, "I have the guy for you. You have got to meet him." And and I said, "Okay, well, tell me a little about him." His name is Rich Snyder, and he's the president of In-N-Out Burger. And he is looking for a Christian woman that is brunette with blue eyes.
Stop.
Yes.
Brunette with blue eyes.
Yes, that's what he
Very
wanted.
Never
specific.
knew that.
Yes.
Never knew that.
And he had never been married. He was older than me.
Right.
He was 39 or 38 at the time. I was 24. So he comes to our office one day, and I'm like, "Oh, no way. No, absolutely not," because he was overweight. Mm-hmm. And I said to my boss, I was like, "No, I'm sorry. That's not going to happen."
Right.
And he goes, "You have to. You have got to. You cannot. You just have to. You will be so amazed."
Like what kind of human he is.
Yes, the kind of human. But, being 24, I was kind of like, I don't know about that. So Rich started calling me and trying to set up a lunch date.
So you hadn't met him yet?
I met him once in the
Just
office.
Briefly. Got it. Okay.
And, so he was trying to set up a lunch date, and I was like,
just see you.
Yeah.
You're like, uh-huh.
Yeah, and he's like, "Well, would this date work?" "No,
I'm busy on that
can't
date."
do that date." Exactly. "Well, how about this date?" "No, I'm so sorry, that doesn't work." And finally, it just became obvious, like I had to say yes, and so we ended up going to the Rusty Pelican in Irvine for lunch, and I remember, kind of all confident going into the Rusty Pelican and thinking I'm just doing my boss a favor, right?
Sure.
And I was completely humbled because Rich Snyder was so authentic and so genuine. It was just Thanksgiving weekend had just happened, and he was telling me that he had been feeding the homeless. He spent his Thanksgiving day. I'm thinking, wow, Okay. And he never bragged about where he lived. He never bragged about his company. He was just so authentically real and genuine. And I realized, wow, what a great guy. And he invited me on date 2. I accepted, but I kept thinking, I'm probably going to cancel before it's time. It was a black tie dinner, and but it kept getting closer and closer, and I didn't cancel. But by the way, when I was leaving the Rusty Pelican, I was so flustered that I thought that I was leaving out of the exit, and I ended up walking in the kitchen. And I remember Rich standing there going, "Where is she going?" And I walked in the kitchen,
awesome.
and I was so embarrassed. And anyway, so we go on date 2, and it didn't take long for me to realize I'm in the presence of a pretty amazing man. a pretty remarkable human being, and how fortunate I am to know him. And then we, kind of our relationship developed and we became exclusive, if you will. And then, he asked me to marry him and about the 10-month mark. And then we got married at about the 1.5 year mark. And I was very happy. I think that was the first time I'd ever really known love in my life. And I really felt safe with him, safe emotionally, safe in so many different ways. And he was so fun, and we laughed a ton. And I can remember one time it was Christmas time, like 1992, and we had been married or maybe it was before we were married. Anyway, we were in our socks at the house, and we were dancing in our socks. You know how you can move on the wood floor. Sure. And all of a sudden I stopped and started crying, and I was like, I just don't want to lose you. I don't want you to die. And I was just, and he's like, don't worry, I'm not going anywhere, And so I ended up losing him on December 15th of 1993 in a plane crash. And it was a huge blow. It was, I don't even have the words to describe the shock and the surrealness of it all.
Because it was just a day trip, if I recall.
It was a day trip to Fresno to visit to open a store. Okay. It was opening store in 93, I believe it was. And by the way, he was the CEO and president of In-N-Out Burger. I don't know if I mentioned that already. Mm-hmm. And he was opening store in 93, and he was coming home that day, and the plane was coming in. They had just dropped off his mother at Pomona, and the plane was coming in for a landing at Santa Ana, and the plane was got caught in the vortex of a 757, and it was too low, too fast, and too low, too fast, and too close to the 757. They were instructed to make S-curves to make space between them, but they got caught in the vortex of the 757 and they went down. And I've talked at the time to all the FAA people, and they went down in 2.5 seconds.
Wow.
And
it was he and who else?
It was Rich, his two best friends, both of which worked for the company. One of them was actually like a vice president, and the other one was a consultant for the company. And then it was, and then two pilots, and they all perished at the
where the Automall
right? On
yeah.
Edinger and the 55.
Yeah,
and it was really bad. In fact, the one best friend that was the vice president wasn't supposed to be flying with Rich. Because they were never supposed to fly together for purposes of if anything was to happen to Rich, Phil was going to be very much a pivotal in taking over the reins of the company.
Right.
But he did fly that day because it was Christmas time, and his plane was delayed like 2 hours, and Rich is like, just come on, just get on board.
Wow.
And it was really that was 31 years ago this past Christmas. So it was I was 27, and I remember just thinking, really, God? I mean, how is this possible? It was just it took me 5 years. It took me a solid 5 years. I'm not going to say that I was terrible for 5 years, but it took me. Everybody has their own timetable of how they deal with grief, and grief is cumulative. So the traumas and the losses from my life, my earlier life, they all sort of accumulate, and I had a really hard time with it, and that's when I met my therapist. Because I wasn't getting better, and someone referred me to him, and he started helping me on the path of healing. So that was really a terrible moment in time. I don't want to call it a moment because it was years, but that day will be etched in my mind forever, of course, and all the ensuing things afterwards. So that is one of the biggest blows of my life.
Of course.
On top of the other things.
Yeah. So that was a part where you thought, oh, finally, I feel loved, respected. I have my daughter, and we're a family.
Right.
And then to have that taken away from you so quickly.
Yes.
Because it was a year and a half, was that?
We were married a little over a year and a half. Right.
So, and how old was Siobhan at that time?
So that was 1993, and she was 12.
Wow. So old enough to know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I remember meeting her, and I think it's safe to say you were definitely very shell-shocked when I met you. Right. Mm-hmm. But even through all of that, you always still had your sense of humor. You could always you were real. Don't get me wrong. You would cry for sure. It wasn't like you bottled any of that up, but you still had the essence of you, I think, which is one thing that I was always really attracted to. I thought, gosh, this girl's funny. She's got a zest for life for sure. But as things continued, there's so much more, right? To the story.
More.
So much more than this.
Yes.
Oh my
There's
God.
more.
And I should say, and it's not a joke, but we've made the joke that if on paper you should not be sitting here, you should be
right. I should be a meth addict on the streets.
Yeah, right.
Or I should be dead. You know.
Right.
And I have to say that I give the glory to God for that, because as I look back, there's no way I could take much credit except for God giving me the strength, the wisdom, putting certain people in my life, having His hand upon me, and just knowing that He is He's working behind the scenes. So I'm trying to think of the next chronological.
Talk about Steve or no?
Oh yeah. Let's talk about Steve for a minute.
The one
Yeah, she introduced me.
Actually, it was more my then husband.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Wasn't it? Because at this point, I've gotten divorced. I've gotten remarried, and my then husband had a very good friend that played in the NFL, and just thought we should introduce him to Chris.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So it was kind of a little more Jim than me. I don't know. But
I don't have a voodoo doll on Jim's head or anything like that.
Or me.
Yeah, no.
Okay,
no.
good,
In fact,
good.
I don't even want to. Steve was a great guy. He is a great guy, and we just weren't the right. We just weren't the right fit. We were engaged at 4 months. We were married at 8 months.
Right.
We were.
I don't know. Fast and furious.
It was
situation.
fast and furious.
Yeah.
And I think that we just
no ill
didn't
feelings.
know what we didn't know.
Yeah.
And we somehow eked out 10 years together.
Did you wait?
10 years.
You did?
Yes.
I did not. You know who this is? Steve Wright.
Oh, okay. Raiders?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good job, Brad.
Very good job.
10 years?
10 years we got together. We made it together.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we have. Whenever I think of Steve, I think of him fondly. He's. I do. I think of him fondly. I wish him the best.
Sure. Of course.
I think he's written a book. I don't know what it's
should
called.
We plug the book, right?
Yeah, we should plug the book. If I knew the name, we should definitely give it a plug. But no, I think of him. I think of him fondly, and we just weren't right for each other.
Yeah, that's fair. And that's that's kind of how I feel about my second husband. Jim was a great guy. Still is a great guy.
Yeah.
I have nothing bad to say about him. He may have something bad to say about me, but that's
I don't
okay.
think so.
I don't know. I think I hurt him, but but there's that. But I think he's very happy now.
Yeah.
And sometimes we go through these things. Where I'm not the person I was then, now.
Right.
And just like you're not the person you were then, now.
Right.
So, we change and evolve, hopefully.
Yes.
One would hope. Anyway,
right.
Okay, so we're picking up from after that.
Yeah. After that, getting a divorce, another painful experience.
Sure.
I don't wish that on anybody.
No.
That's really painful and really. I was the one that initiated the divorce, but I was it was really tough.
Yeah. It's never fun.
No, it's never fun. And then I was single for 8 years, and I didn't realize how much growing you can do in those years. I cherish those years because I really grew into. I learned how to be alone.
Yeah.
I learned how to thrive alone. I learned how to be it didn't happen overnight, believe me, because the weekend would come and I would get so, oh no, it's Friday and everybody's doing things and what am I going to do? And I have to, you have to take your own, you can't just wait around for people to call you. You have to make plans and be proactive about that. And I had to learn all those things, all those nuances about how to be single and what was going to work for me and how was I going to be okay and not be, close all the window treatments and just be in my house all, eating pizza by the delivery guy, all depressed. I had to learn how to be single and be happy and be content. And that was a process.
Sure.
My therapist helped me so much. And I at one point in my...
Shout out Jeff Stickney.
That's right. Woohoo.
Yeah.
And at one point in my singleness, I said, okay, I'm in school right now. I'm in school. I said this to him. And you're going to teach me how to be content in my world right now. This is where God has me. Yep. Okay. Yep. Teach me how to be okay with this. Teach me how to not just be okay, but to thrive. And we worked on it big time. And I went, several times per week and we really worked hard and he really brought me to, helped me come to a place of acceptance and contentment. Yeah. And I think too that the more content you can be as a single person, not that I'm the authority on single people, but the more content you can be, the better partner you will be.
Absolutely.
Whenever,
I agree with that 100%.
Yes. If you're completely, ill-content and you just are waiting for that person to come into your life.
Complete me, please complete me.
Yes. You are kind of a nightmare, in the making. So the best thing I always tell people is just try to throw yourself into your to your reality right now and just be okay with that. Yeah. And see what God has for you. Yeah. Because then I've had 3 husbands. I have a wonderful man that I
There's the charm, baby. Charm.
And I'm married now. And I just wanted to make a comment that all 3 husbands that I've had have been through setups. So I'm a huge
so
believer.
Who set you up with Kelly?
Are my friends from Mariners Church.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
That we went to, I attended this 12-week kind of course or whatever at Mariners years earlier. And I, you kind of like gravitate to certain people. And so this one couple, we would do things together and hang out and they were always trying to find this right guy for me. And so they... They told me about Kelly, my husband, and they said, oh, we have this great guy for you. He's this, he's that. He's so great. He's so this, he's that. Oh, but he's got a girlfriend.
Oh, well, thanks.
Really? And so after a while, I was like, let's not talk about him anymore because he's clearly not available. And it's just
pointless.
Not, so I forgot all about him, completely forgot all about him. And I think I did like Match.com and some of those ones at the time.
No, you did not.
I did for a minute for a hot. When I turned 50, I did. I was like, this is the year that I'm going to take this.
Where was Brian Fargo amongst all this? Was he
pre-Steve? Oh yes, he was pre-Steve.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, he was the best. He was funny. But I did Match.com and that was so.
Can't imagine.
Oh gosh, it was. I remember like thinking like I put makeup on for this and I showed up and like really I would rather be home with my animals,
right,
Right. So that was just I don't envy people having to do that.
It's rough
because it's like, did you not think that I wasn't going to notice that you're 50 pounds overweight? Your picture doesn't look anything like you now. Did you think I wasn't going to notice that?
Yeah. And it's usually the girls I feel like that do that too, don't they?
Do they?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know because I saw it with men. I was just like, oh my gosh.
I love the horror stories of online dating.
Oh yeah, there's so many of them.
Oh boy.
So I had my moment in that world. It was a very short moment because I just was like, "This is for the birds. I'm not doing this anymore." But anyhow, I go to meet my friends, the couple that I was mentioning at a Christmas Eve service at Mariners, and forgot all about Kelly. Wasn't even in my radar, and I was trying to.
Had you seen him?
I'd seen a photo of him.
Okay, got it.
But I never met him or anything.
But he was going to Newport Workout, was he not?
He was. But I don't think I knew who he was at the time.
Okay.
So he was, but we had no connection there.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. And so then when I got to the church that night and I'm getting in the row and I had to kind of like go by people that one of the friend Tina, she said, guess who's here tonight? I was like, who? And she goes, Kelly. I go, you're kidding me. And I noticed this handsome guy as I came in the aisle, but I wasn't thinking that's Kelly. It didn't even dawn on me, And so anyhow, we started dating shortly after that.
So wait, what happened to the girlfriend?
Oh, they broke up.
Okay, good.
They broke up. Yeah, yeah. Well, they're still together.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We have an understanding.
Yeah, they broke
She's very
up.
modern like that.
Yeah, we just, yeah, exactly.
We make it work.
Yeah, we do. So we started dating shortly after they broke up, and then we got married. It'll be 4 years this August.
Wow.
And I feel like we have such a great thing. We have a great thing. You know, it's not easy, meeting somebody when you're older in life.
Yeah.
I think that it has its own challenges.
Oh yeah.
But I think that we have a great therapist too, by the way.
Oh, couples
therapist.
Nice.
And I always say that we probably wouldn't be married today if it wasn't for her, because she helped us, get through all the muck,
because he had been married before, correct?
Yes, he was married before. Yes,
and has
two daughters.
Okay.
Who I adore.
Okay, that's great.
So then last year, this brings me to my most recent shocker. I'll go back. 2 years ago. 2 years prior to what I learned last December. Does that make sense? The timing, what I'm saying? I did a DNA test in April of 2022.
Okay, yes.
Okay, I did
one
a
of those
DNA.
23andMe kind of things.
23andMe. And I did it, Kelly did it too, and we're just like, oh, this is going to be fun.
Sure.
Yeah, and thinking, I know exactly
You're gonna find out
what
you're
it's
the
going to say.
small black child.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
finally I learned the truth.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, Western European, this is going to be so boring.
Right,
I mean, and I get my results and it says that I am 50% Persian. And I was like, what? This can't be correct. I mean, this, and I called my mother and she's like, well, Christina, neither your father or I are Persian. I was like, I'm very well aware of that. I mean,
got some explaining to do.
Yeah. And so there was no give on her part on any information about that. And I just assumed, literally.
That was wrong.
That my spit, because it's a spit test, that it sat out in the sun too long or something. I was like, this is just completely wacko.
Right.
So I'm putting it away and forgetting about it.
Yeah.
And so then my sister, now fast forward about a year and a half later, she's going to do a DNA test. And she tells my mother, if I'm not half Persian, you really got some talking to do because something's up.
Yeah, yeah.
And
she says that to your mom.
Yes.
Okay.
And so Linda, who is my mother, said, we better have a family meeting.
Oh.
And so last December, the December of 23, I fly to Portland where they all live. And I learn that my father was not my father. The Catholic priest was not my father. But she said that she didn't know that because she had been with both men in a close proximity. And she didn't know that I was
conceived
by this man. And so she...
So was this just like a little fling, or we don't know?
That's what she says.
Got it.
I don't know what to think.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think about that. So that's a shocker. So I still don't believe it. And the 23andMe app, because I just thought that it was so bogus. I didn't really play with the app. I didn't let it, any of it. It can populate in relatives, but I never let it do that because I was like, oh, this is just bogus. Well, anyhow, I get on the plane from that meeting because I'm flying directly home, and I decide I'm going to let it populate in relatives, and all these Persian names start rolling in, and I'm like, this is true. This is, and it's just the most bizarre feeling to be. At the time, I was 57, and I was thinking, who am I? I mean, I just wasn't expecting this kind of a reality.
Right.
And so what I found out a few months later, and just processing all of that, and then finding out that my sister and I were only half siblings, and that was hurtful because she's the closest family member that I'm closest to, and that was just, it doesn't change our relationship, but it just was hurtful that we're different, and we have different fathers. And my father, by the way, the one that I thought was my father is passed away in 2017, so he didn't even know that I wasn't his real daughter.
Wow.
So there's all this, that you have to process through, but fast forward a few months later, it hasn't even been a year. I get a message on the 23andMe app because I found out that I had a first cousin that was Persian, And that's a pretty close connection.
Yeah.
And I wanted to reach out to her, but I was kind of like, I don't know when the right time is. I don't know, and so she reached out to me and she's like, how is it that we're related? And I said, I think we should talk on the phone. And so we got on the phone. She was so sweet. And she goes, well, you realize that you have 2 sisters and 2 brothers.
Wow.
I'm like, no, absolutely. I had no idea. Wow. And so she helped connect me to my 2 sisters, who I have 2 darling sisters, one of which lives only 15 minutes from me.
No.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yeah. And we've gotten together several times. And then the other sister lives in Toronto. She came here this summer, and we all got together. I mean, and they've totally embraced me.
That's awesome.
I mean, if I found out that my dad, meaning when I say my dad, I'm talking about the man that raised me. If I found out that he had a kid, I'd just be like, yeah, I'm not interested in knowing you. I don't have, I just would. These girls have completely embraced me as their sister. And it's a trip. I think I don't deserve this kind of, they're so amazing and so welcoming to me. And then I have 2 brothers that live in Iran, and one of them I've connected with for sure. The other one we've just kind of messaged a little bit through I think WhatsApp or whatever. But anyway, so I have a big Persian part of my life.
Incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But all through this, you have just from where I sit, been so gracious, so loving and kind. You've given back to many organizations for pets. You're a big advocate for that. Your faith is a huge part of your life, obviously. I like we've said, this would have knocked down so many people with the first round.
Yeah, just one of those things.
Yeah, one of those things. And you've, so graciously came back. And it's just, and, she and I have kind of, our relationship, I would say, is waxed and waned. Not in a bad way, not for anything bad, but just, we life.
Move on. Yeah, you
life.
go in different directions.
And I forget what reconnected us most recently.
What was that?
I don't know, but I'm grateful it did because, we talk pretty frequently now. And, it's funny how certain people that are in your life, certain people are in your life for short periods of time, right? And they kind of go off, and that's fine. But, when we reconnect, I always feel like we have so much to talk about. We can pick up like it was, 30 years ago yesterday. We could talk about being at, at Club 33 with Mike and Mona and all the things,
So many fun times.
Yeah. So I think that's great. And I'm just so impressed and so overwhelmed with, the things that I get upset about, or gosh, I feel really bummed out about X, Y, and Z, or this situation. You have persevered through so many things, come out the other side, and just you can kind of laugh about some of it, which is amazing.
Yeah, I can,
and just
mostly,
and not
at times,
and obviously a lot of tears have been shed. I'm not trying to discount any of the severity of any of this, but I'm just so impressed and overwhelmed with what type of person you are, that you're still standing. You're not letting any of this keep you down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not to say that I don't have
bad days, probably
days. Sometimes weeks. That are down. That I think that I do struggle maybe more than some.
Sure.
Just like I always tell my therapist, if this is baseline and people come out into adult life at baseline, I came out into, way down here and I had to work so hard to be somewhat normal, whatever that means, but just, I think that I've come a long way. Yes,
Absolutely.
I have. And my therapist has been hugely pivotal in that. And my animals, like you mentioned the other day, my dogs are,
family.
They are my family, and they are. They've taught me about redemption and resilience. My little pit bull, she was abused at a very young age, and when she came into my life, it took so much for her to trust, so much for her to believe that I was, really going to be what she hoped I was. And
did you feel that parallel?
Oh, so much.
Yeah.
And when we had 11, almost 12 years together, and losing her was absolutely horrific because she was my soulmate, and she was we had parallel lives.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and she really so anyhow, I'm so grateful because I'm able to feel that kind of love for these beings. I don't have any like my situation with my daughter. You know, we didn't have a normal mother-daughter life. My mother was very involved. I was an emotional wreck, and so our life has been difficult. You know, we do the best we can. I do have 3 beautiful grandkids, and my daughter is now 43 and married with 3 kids, and so we do the best we can under the circumstances. But I think that these animals have really given me a lot of healing. They've provided such a healing. They always do.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. I've been through stuff in life that almost broke me. Why did you not give up?
Yeah. Great question.
Like, what kept you going?
That's a great question. Without sounding redundant, I would say the first and foremost reason is my faith. And I don't want to sound like, oh, I'm just so spiritual and, you know, I'm just reading the Bible all day long. I mean, you know, I've been mad at God. I've been downright pissed off. And I always tell people, God will meet you right where you are. God, you have to be real and you have to be honest. And I've been on my face in front of God and just like, why?
Yeah.
But why? You know, I mean, this doesn't make any sense. I have been furious and then I've felt such love and warmth and healing and so God and I have been all over this journey together, you know, and I'm very real about that with God. And so I would say that my faith, which has been hard won sometimes, you know, has been my biggest thing. And just really believing that God has a purpose somehow. And that's why, like, even coming on this podcast, I feel like if someone can hear my story and feel just a little bit of hope and feel a little bit of encouragement that they can make it, you know, even just another day, a week, you know, that God's going to show up for them somewhere, somehow, then it makes it worth it. Because otherwise, what's the point? That's what I always say. What is the point of all this if we can't touch another life?
Yes.
And I always think back to like being 14 and not ever realizing that life could have so much pain. I had no idea that, you know, which thankfully we shouldn't know those things when we're, you know, young. But I think that some of us have experienced great pain and great loss. But I was thinking about that driving over here, that I wouldn't trade. It's like I've said, it's been hard won. You know, it comes at a price, but the peace and the faith and the who I built into who I am today. I think that I wouldn't trade that for anything, and that is only because of the sorrows and the traumas and the things that I've. So it's kind of a catch-22 because like I wish it didn't happen, but because it did, then it made me who I am.
Yeah.
So did I answer your question?
100%.
Yeah. It's. Yeah.
Your resilience is incredible.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the one that was, I know a lot of people probably have, but said, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. There's just so much to it. And just, you know, like you said, if it touches anybody, because when we're all in our shit, we very often feel like, oh my gosh, the world is imploding. Nothing is going to get better.
Right.
And we've talked about, I think with Christine, our EMDR therapist, big T trauma, little T trauma. It doesn't always feel different when you're in it. And, you know, for people to realize that, you know, it's always darkest before the dawn is what I like to say. And, you know, we have choices when we get into those situations. Like when Paula was on and she said, you know, someone gave me the tip that you need to stay on a routine because you don't want to roll up into a little ball and just let that grief consume you. And you could have chosen that. But, you know.
Yeah, there's times that I did choose that for sure.
Yeah.
You know, and good old Mona would get me out. You know, and she would get me out. But yeah, I mean, I think every day can be a bit of a battle. Thankfully, like my husband Kelly is such an optimist.
I love it.
You know, he's. I get some information about. I have a dog that's my golden retriever is almost 17 in a few months.
Isn't that crazy?
And she's truly phenomenal. I mean, we work really hard at her longevity, but I get some news that isn't so good. And he's like, yeah, but think about blah, 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 you know? And I'm like, oh yeah. You know, he keeps me so grounded. So he's a blessing in my life in so many ways, but he sees things. I tend to not think like that.
Yeah,
so I think
same.
And our vet, my vet knows the traumas that I've been in. He's like, and I'll say, but I can't handle this news. He says, I understand with your past. I totally understand that, you know, where you're coming from. So I think there's some things that you're just like, I'm not ever going to be like glasses half full person. Right. I mean, I am here today, but believe me, I mean, it's like, I don't always think, oh, you know, Pollyanna like that. I don't. I think, oh no, it's really happening. Like do you know what I'm saying? Yes. Like I'm always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Yep. And I don't necessarily like that. No. But I guess that's just sort of the trauma response.
Yeah. And we're all a work in progress. Right. And I think that anybody that chooses to do the work, and it's not easy to look at ourselves and to say, you know, how can I improve on this, and this? And especially with what you've been through. I mean, you had the choice of, I'm just going to, like you said, you could have been a meth addict on the street, homeless, you know, that could happen. Yeah. You hear about these stories all the time. And you chose to do, you know, I can't say enough about the therapist. I mean, I'm a huge fan. He's incredible. That's such a huge component. Your faith is such a huge component. You know, you took good care of yourself too. You also, you know, the fitness and all of that and what you eat and all the things. That makes a huge part too about how we feel, you know?
I think when you're really down, it's like you have to. I feel like sometimes in my life is a story of triage, because it's like what, you know. Okay, I'm in a terrible place right now. So what's most important?
What's bleeding out right now?
Right. Like how do I attend to my needs right now, because there's so many. Something's got to give. So where am I gonna put my energy? You know. So I can't say I've always been a perfect eater, or I've always done this or always done that, but I've just, here I am today.
No, but I mean, nobody's a perfect eater. But what I mean by that
is you.
No, I'm not. No,
yes,
I'm not. No. But as I've known you, that has been a big part of your life is you know, putting things into your body that you know are going to support your journey in a positive way. Right. I mean, one of the things you can control.
That's right.
There's been so much that you couldn't control in your life, right?
That's right.
And I am a huge control freak, and I don't like that either. You know, I want to just be more like Kelly.
Yes.
Do we need a bracelet?
I know.
More like Kelly.
That's really a good. Yeah, I should make bracelets. Be more like Kelly.
Be more like Kelly.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. He's doing a race pretty soon. He's a triathlete, and he's doing a race pretty soon. And we always make T-shirts, and maybe that should be the one.
That's it. And I want
be more like Kelly.
Be more like Kelly, and I would like the reference.
Okay, for sure. Raquel Perry.
Yeah, no, it was her dear first.
No, be more like Kelly. No, because that's so great that you found someone in your life that balances you.
It really is such a blessing. Are you kidding? He's such a blessing like that. He brings so many amazing things to the table. Like he's so practical. Yeah. The way he thinks is so practical, you know, and I'll just be all flustered about something. Sure. Yeah, but you forgot about blah, blah, blah.
That's so great. That's so great.
Yeah. I imagine Matt's kind of like that for you.
You know, Matt and I take turns. I always say he will be that person, but we'll flip. He will get kind of flustered and freak out about things too, and then I'll be like, no, it's okay. But fortunately, we're not both doing it typically at the same time, spinning out together. Yes. But I don't know. We've made that dance work, you know. But it's truly interesting how the people that we surround ourselves with make such a difference in how we handle these things.
Yes,
you know. I don't know.
It's very true.
The story's been amazing.
It really has.
Thank you. I'm happy to share. Yeah. Thank you for having me on.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. This has been a long time coming, and I'm grateful that you came.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. But one more thing. I wanted you to talk about the dogs and what you and Kelly were instrumental about making happen in South Korea.
Oh, okay. So part of my journey just, is about the animals. And about 2016, actually earlier than that, like 2014, I got involved with a woman in South Korea who was on the front lines of working against the dog meat trade. In South Korea is the only, and they're a very civilized country. They're a very progressive country. Yeah. I think they have the 11th largest economy in the world, but yet they are raising and for raising and breeding dogs for meat. And they have all these beliefs that the dog meat makes you more virile, more. There's all these beliefs. They eat it at certain times of the year, especially more so, but they eat it all year long. But anyway, there's about 1 million dogs being killed every year for food, and their horrific conditions that they live in. It's just, and the way that they slaughter them is horrific. Yeah. There's nothing about it is pretty. And so I started getting involved with this woman and in South Korea, and then in 2016. Last Chance for Animals got involved as well, and I'm the president of the board for the chairman of the board for Last Chance for Animals. And this past in January 7th of 2024, it was banned officially in South Korea. That. Not just because of our group. Our group was very involved, and we have a sister organization on the ground in Korea, so we're very, very involved in the fight. But there are many other organizations, so I don't want to sound like it was just us. Yeah. But
you were integral.
Yes, but the laws were changed, and now it's a matter of it's in 2027 is when it needs to be phased out. So it's still happening today, but it's a matter of transitioning the farmers over to like mushroom farming or other kind of ways of getting them an income. And then it's like what to do with all these dogs. That's another issue coming down the pipeline.
Buddies is one that does that, I think.
I've heard of that group.
Yeah.
They bring them over, right? Yeah. We don't do that actually. Yeah. We're involved in the animal rights and the legislation part. Got it. So we leave that to other groups because we just can't do it all. Sure. We can't do it all effectively. But yes, there is a huge movement of bringing dogs over and talk about being traumatized. What these animals have seen, the smell of death, the sounds. I mean, if you hear 10 seconds of one of those videos, you will never be the same. Yeah. If you don't even see it, if you hear it. Yeah, I'm sure. So yes, we've been really blessed that it did pass.
That's great. Yeah, and that has to feel so good to give back. Because you felt. I may be speaking for you, but I assume you have felt not taken care of and not advocated for. So now you're doing something for something that could not have an advocate.
You are
as well.
very perceptive, and you're right, because I have lived a lot of my life, and I didn't even realize that I felt that way. Like I said, it's still been an eye-opening experience. I think when you do have so much trauma at a young age, you are in survival mode. Sure. And slowly I've been able to unpack my survival mode and get more into living mode. Yes. And I know that sounds crazy at my age, but it really does. I mean, you get ramped up into survival mode, and it takes time. It takes a lot of time, a lot of therapy, a lot of consistent work. And so, yeah.
Well, I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.